If you want to be that person in groups who everyone likes, everyone wants to talk to, and who never gets left out of the conversation, you need to do a certain set of things, which involves deliberately involving people in the conversation, deliberately singling out one person to talk to, and deliberately changing the topic. The trouble is, some of these things aren't that intuitive to do. And also we don't do them because we're worried about what other people are going to think. Luckily, there is a mindset that helps with this, which is to treat honestly any conversation, but particularly group conversations, like a game, which I like to call conversation countdown. In real conversation, we've got all these worries about like what people are going to think of us, and that stops us, breaking off one person to talk to. It stops us addressing a question to the entire group. It stops us changing the topic when, the conversation's getting a little dry. These worries that we're having might include, what if people don't find this joke funny? What if this person doesn't want to also talk to this person with me? What if I'm talking too much? Whereas when you just treat it like the game, these worries don't apply because you just want to win the game, which is you want to have as many conversations as you can. One other thing is that conversations can kind of stress us out sometimes. But when we're playing games can also stress us out. But I think people are better at remembering, okay, it's just a game. I'm here to have fun. And similarly in conversations, yes, you're treating this kind of competitively, but it's also just a game and you're just having fun. You're having fun with the other players. But first I need to explain how the game works, the correct strategy to optimally win the game. In other words, how you should talk in group conversations, or honestly any conversation. The game is a multiplayer game played with 2 or more characters where everyone has multiple secret topics, and there is some overlap between these secret topics. Players are free to just have a conversation, and for every minute they spend talking about one of their secret topics, they get 1 point. But if players go 10 minutes without having a conversation involving any of their secret topics, they are out of the game. And the game is played until there are no players left, or until there's 1 player left. So for example, player 1 might want to talk about squares, diamonds, or triangles. And player 3 and 4 may also want to talk about triangles, but player 4 won't want to talk about diamonds. So, player 3 and 1 might chat for a little while about diamonds to try to get as many points as they can. So this game essentially almost exactly replicates real conversation, where instead of secret topics, we have topics that we are interested in talking about. If we go too long with no interest in what the conversation is, we're going to be out. We're just going to be sitting there doing nothing, and that's no good. If we have lots of conversations about topics we want to talk about, we're going to be doing well. And people want to talk about slightly different things, but there is overlap. And the aim of the game is to find this overlap and spend as long as you can talking about topics which everyone is interested in. So you want to have conversations about your secret topic as much as possible, obviously. But you need to be nice to the other players and try to help them, because if you get them all out, you'll have no one to talk to. And also, if these players just don't like you, they're not going to want to play with you next time. In other words, if you're not having conversations that they enjoy, they're not going to invite you back the next time you hang out. So it's really a game of teamwork where you're trying to have conversations with all the people who have one secret topic. Now, these 2 people could talk about diamonds, but it would be more effective for them to also involve player 3, because then everyone's getting more points, everyone will stay in the game longer, and they'll all be like, yeah, this is so fun. So if player 1 and player 2 were talking about diamonds, and they saw player 3 kept looking over and looked kind of excited, player 1 and player 2 should actively involve player 3 to help them, because it doesn't hurt them at all, and it helps player 3. It's just a nice thing to do, and it also helps them in the long run. Now, remember, you're focused on winning. You're not focused on, does player 3 want to be involved? Are we sure about this? No. Player 3 wants, there's no harm. Like, if player 3 turns out not to have diamonds, all good. But we're going to ask, right? Like, we're going to be like, hey, we're going to ask him a question, because we're focused on winning the game. And just like that, in normal conversations, if me and someone else are chatting and we see someone else seems to be kind of interested, there's no worry about like, what's this person going to think if I involve them? No, just involve them. If they don't want to be involved, sure, that's fine, but just give it a go. Now, you obviously also, another thing is you can't talk about the same topic forever because you'll run out of stuff to say. So you do need to change them a little bit. So when the topic kind of runs out, don't wait for other people to start changing. No, you're focused on winning the game. So you're going to try really hard to think of another topic that everyone might like. And there's actually a little twist to this game, another rule which I didn't mention, which is that the topics are all a little bit related. So if you know one of their secret topics, you have a better chance of working out their other ones. So through talking to people, you might get a good idea that, player 3 is interested in this kind of thing. And so if player 1 and player 4 are chatting about something and they go, oh, player 3 might like this, you may go and get them and involve them. And maybe player 1 knows that all these people kind of like this general thing, so they might just address a question to the entire group. Now, let's say that player 1 and player 2 are chatting and they happen to have both struck a shared topic. So maybe two people are chatting and one person's like, oh, do you do any sport? And they do like, oh, I play cricket. And then they're like, oh, no, wait, I play cricket too. Now, both players, now that they've struck this secret topic, need to show interest. So if you don't show interest, like really try hard to show interest, the other person go, oh, this mustn't be their secret topic. I'll change the topic. I'll try another one. So you need to try really hard when you are interested in something and you want to chat about it, and you can see that the other person likes it as well. You need to keep asking questions about that and show interest. Now, when you might not do this, because generally that seems pretty intuitive to do that. You might not do this if you're worried, oh, is this like a cringe topic? I don't want to be judged for doing this. No. If the other person seems interested, talk about it. It's that simple. And this is hard to remember. Like, I catch myself not doing this sometimes as well. And that's why remembering that it is kind of like this game can help a little bit. So there's a couple other things. Now, if a couple players are talking about, let's say 2 players are talking about something and the other 2 players, you can tell they don't have that secret topic. They're kind of just not really involved in the conversation. Now, player 4 might notice that player 3 isn't involved and start a side conversation with them. In actual conversation, a lot of people are scared to start side conversations. But when you treat it like a game, you remember, okay, we're just trying to win. If they actually do want to be involved in the conversation, no harm done. But I'm going to ask. I'm going to see if they want to have a side conversation. So you should pretty much always be finding someone to talk to if you're not interested in the conversation that's going on. The only time you would actually be silent and not try and find someone to talk to is if the entire group, everyone but you, is really involved in the conversation. Then that's kind of just unlucky. Like, everyone likes talking about that thing except you. Then you just sit there. And maybe if someone else is the person just sitting there, maybe you would want to actually go up and talk to them so that they don't go out of the game. So even though you like this conversation you're in, maybe you go, oh, I feel bad, I'm going to go help them. Because then you've built a bond with them, they'll want to play with you next time, and you'll keep more players in the game. In other words, like, sometimes it's nice if you see someone just not interested in the conversation, just leave the group and go talk to them, even if you liked what was going on in the group. You don't always have to do it, but you can do it. So that pretty much sums up the mindset, how you should play this game. And in other words, how you should act in group conversations. And this all applies for one-on-one as well. So you can see how it's pretty helpful. Now, you don't have to remember that, you're playing a game. You don't have to think, oh, what does player 3 think when you're in an actual conversation? You can just remember that people want to have conversations about things they find interesting. And if they don't have enough conversations for a little while, they're not going to want to hang out again. They're going to not be that interested. They're going to be a bit pissed off. So the mindset you have, which will remove these worries, ultimately is, okay, in group conversations or in any conversation, I'm trying to spend as long as I can talking about stuff that I want to talk about and that the other person wants to talk about. And it doesn't matter what people think of me. If there's a good conversation, we're going to have that conversation. There's no thinking, oh, are people going to like this joke? Are people am I talking too much? There's just, okay, let's try the next thing to try to get something that we all like talking about. Or, okay, there's no, oh no, I'm scared to take that person away from the group. Let's go. Instead, it's, okay, let's just try it. If they don't like it, they can go back, but we really need to try really hard to do the best we can in this game. Kind of the focus on performance helps you put more effort and focus into trying to have good conversations where you would otherwise just be focused on, those worries and the anxiety, and you maybe wouldn't put as much effort in just because you're like, who really cares? It doesn't matter that much. So maybe next time you're in conversation, try to treat it a little bit more competitively. Remember, it's a team game. You work together. You're not competing against the other players, but you are trying your hardest. And you're not worrying about what people think, because that's not helping you win the game. And hopefully that will help you have much better conversations and be that person who everyone loves talking to in groups. So I hope this helped. Have a great day.